right, as somebody who lives in Kansas City, I've been waiting to sit down with you guys to talk about the biggest sensation in the NFL.
What would that be, Jeff?
Which would be Patrick Mahomes, if you didn't know. And I say that because, not just because he's a great athlete and the big arm strength, the great playmaking ability, but because of the person he is. I got to sit here and tell you that normally a 23-year-old kid having the kind of success he's been having would be out around the town, living it up, sucking it up. This is a guy who's about humility, he's about faith, he's about his teammates, and that's the best thing about his success.
You know, I talked to LaTroy Hawkins recently. He played for the Yankees. He met Pat Mahomes, Patrick's father, with the 92 Twins, I believe. He's his godfather, so he knows Patrick well. And he said that one thing about Patrick, he was not ready a year ago, that last year gave him so much more of a comfort zone, especially because of Andy Reid and Alex Smith. Imagine that in an age when we have zero patience now, right? A year ago, he needed that. But also the arm strength and also the arm flexibility. He was a shortstop. So he can make throws off schedule, off balance. Not everything as a shortstop is planned, right? You might have a five-step drop that turns into something else. Well, shortstops don't even plan that far ahead. They've got to go get the ball wherever it is. And LaTroy Hawkins mentioned that to me in terms of the arm and how important that was. He played shortstop well into his high school years. So this wasn't a guy who specialized. And I think we're seeing the benefit of that now.
That's a great point. I spoke to Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator there, about Patrick Mahomes, and he said the thing that's so staggering about him, besides all of the talent, is the recall.
Yeah.
Is the fact that if he sees something at one point in practice or at a game, he can pull back from it. He can draw information from it. And what Bieniemy was basically pushing forward is like, this guy's got kind of the mental acumen to play the position like a Drew Brees.
Beautiful
mind. As he moves forward in his career, this is going to get easier and easier to him, especially because they are stressing a lot of, like the mental scope of him with this playbook. You don't see them doing a lot of plays over and over again.
Well, first of all, I just like hearing Jeff talk about Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I'm a fan of both Jeff and Patrick Mahomes. They're in the same city, and it's just good to see him happy.
It makes Kansas City better.
Right. And listen, I remember at the owners' meetings before Patrick Mahomes was drafted, I was walking with Sean Payton, and we were talking about the quarterback class coming out, and I said, hey, what about this Mahomes guy? And he looked at me right in the eyes and said, I think he's Brett Favre. And I said, excuse me? And he said, no, I really think he's Brett Favre, and proceeded to tell me why. And that changed my orientation.
I thought about drafting him.
Yeah, oh, of course. And then when the Chiefs went up and did it, I mean, what organizational foresight. Brilliant to let him wait a year. And shout out to Alex Smith for holding him off for a year. How did he do that?
He's not Brett Favre. And I've heard those comparisons. The arm might be, but everything else about him. And that's the thing coming into it. We all thought he was going to be this reckless, throwing the ball all over the place, 5 interceptions one game, 5 TDs the next. He's a lot more like Joe Montana. And when you talk about the intelligence and the recall,
very bright.
Very bright. And I tell people this, and it's not a racial thing, but oftentimes with black quarterbacks, we talk about their athletic skills.
Right.
And really their mind. And this kid, he is so bright.
Yeah.
He is so smart, and the recall is a big part
Well,
of
and he's
his success.
apparently always had that recall where sees it once, doesn't have to see it again. For a young quarterback in this league, that's invaluable.
Oh, absolutely.
One small point, by the way. You mentioned Eric Bieniemy. I think he might be the next offensive guy. We saw Matt Nagy get a head coaching job coming out of that system. Doug Peterson before him.
Let's hope so. And we can steer this away from that. I want to look at that point because he's a running backs coach. And running backs coach a lot of times don't get that type of credibility. And to get back to the racial component of it, a lot of black offensive assistant coaches do not. He's not like Favre. When I saw him play against the Chargers, he reminded me a lot of Favre because the fearlessness. I mean, all the other, but the fearlessness he plays with is just something that's going to carry Kansas City along with.
He's been fearless throughout his entire life. And I tell you what, when I talked to his dad about him at the start of the year, he talked about the fact that this kid's going to make mistakes, but he will do things that will blow your mind. He was right.
I love it when he does this.